Tonight is not just another night that will pass quietly into memory. Tonight, January 24th, at exactly 11 p.m., carries a weight in the spiritual realm that words can barely hold. There are moments when heaven leans closer to earth, when the unseen presses against the seen, and when silence itself becomes loud with meaning. This is one of those moments. What you are hearing right now is not accidental, not random, and not late. It arrives precisely because time has narrowed, because a window has opened, and because a decision stands before you that cannot be postponed without consequence. Archangel Michael does not often baby. He commands. He defends. He wars. And yet tonight, his voice comes to you with urgency, not force, with pleading, not thunder, because what is at stake is the miracle you have been waiting for so long. You have waited through nights of prayer that seemed unanswered. You have endured seasons where hope felt fragile, where promises felt distant, and where the silence of heaven tested your faith. You asked yourself if the delay meant denial. You wondered if you misunderstood, if you heard wrong, or if the miracle was meant for someone else. But hear this clearly now. The waiting was not punishment, and the silence was not abandonment. It was preparation. It was alignment. And now, the timing has reached a critical point. Tonight is marked. Tonight is numbered. Tonight is different. Archangel Michael is warning you because heaven recognizes something you may not yet see. This moment is decisive. The phrase "open this" is not symbolic fluff or poetic mystery. It is a directive wrapped in mercy. There is something before you that requires your attention, your humility, and your obedience. It may look small. It may feel ordinary. It may feel inconvenient. But heaven often hides life-altering breakthroughs inside simple acts of obedience. Many lose miracles not because they rejected God, but because they delayed responding when God spoke quietly instead of loudly. Tonight, the voice comes softly but urgently, because force would violate your free will, and heaven will not cross that line. This is why Archangel Michael begs, because the miracle is ready, but it is tethered to your response. Do not underestimate the danger of thinking, "I'll do it later," or "I'll listen again another time." Divine timing does not operate on human convenience. There are moments when alignment must happen now, not eventually. Scripture is filled with people who stood on the edge of promise and turned away, not in rebellion, but in hesitation. And hesitation can be just as costly as refusal. Tonight, at 11 p.m., something shifts whether you participate or not. The question is not whether heaven will move. The question is whether you will move with it. What makes this moment rare, almost shocking, is the level of urgency attached to it. Archangel Michael stands as a guardian of divine order, a warrior assigned to protect destinies, and an enforcer of heavenly decrees. When such a being signals urgency, it means resistance has reached its limit and release is imminent. It means the battle over your miracle has intensified because the end is near. And when the end is near, distractions multiply, weariness increases, and doubt grows louder. That is not coincidence. That is strategy from the opposing side. This message reaches you now because something has been trying very hard to keep you from this exact moment. You may feel tired. You may feel unsure. You may feel unworthy or unready. But readiness is not about perfection. It is about availability. Heaven is not asking you to understand everything, only to respond. Archangel Michael's warning is not rooted in fear. It is rooted in protection. He is not threatening loss. He is trying to prevent it. The miracle you have waited for, whether it concerns restoration, provision, healing, direction, or breakthrough, has been preserved for you through delay, through warfare, and through endurance. But it must now be received through obedience. Tonight is a threshold. Once crossed, things will not return to how they were. That does not mean everything changes instantly in the natural realm, but it does mean alignment occurs in the spiritual realm. And when alignment occurs, outcomes are only a matter of time. What you do with this message determines whether you step forward or remain standing at the door of promise, looking in but never entering. This is why the warning is so strong. This is why the tone is so serious. This is why you were led here now. Do not dismiss the weight you feel in your spirit as emotion. Do not explain away the sense that this message is speaking directly to you. That inner stirring is recognition. Something in you knows this matters. Something in you knows this is real. And something in you knows that ignoring this moment would carry regret. Heaven does not beg often, but when it does, it is because the cost of missing the moment is too high to remain silent. Tonight, January 24th, at 11 p.m., is not about fear, it is about opportunity. It is about choosing alignment over delay, obedience over comfort, and faith over familiarity. Archangel Michael's insight is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to awaken you. The miracle has not passed you by. It is closer than it has ever been. But it is waiting on one thing, your response, in this moment, at this time. And now that you have heard this, the responsibility shifts gently but firmly into your hands. Heaven has spoken. The warning has been given. The door stands before you. What happens next will depend on whether you choose to open what has been placed in front of you tonight. There is a reason this message found you and not millions of others. Out of countless voices, countless videos, countless distractions competing for attention, this one reached you at this exact time. That alone should cause you to pause. Heaven does not broadcast certain messages publicly. It delivers them personally. This is not about algorithms, coincidence, or curiosity. This is about selection. When Archangel Michael allows a warning of this magnitude to reach someone, it is because that person stands at a critical intersection of destiny and decision. You are not here by chance. You are here because you have been seen. You have carried something for a long time, an unanswered prayer, a promise spoken over your life, a deep desire that refused to die even when circumstances tried to bury it. You learned how to function while waiting. You learned how to smile while hoping. You learned how to survive disappointment without letting it harden your heart. Many around you gave up, settled, or walked away from faith altogether. But you stayed. Even when your faith felt quiet, it never disappeared. That persistence is not accidental. That endurance is evidence. Heaven notices those who remain standing when it would be easier to sit down in despair. This message did not come to mock your waiting or minimize your pain. It came because the waiting season has shaped you for what comes next. There are blessings that cannot be given early because they would crush the recipient instead of elevating them. There are miracles that require maturity, not excitement. And there are doors that only open for those who have learned patience without bitterness. You were chosen for this message because you reached a level where responsibility can match reward. Archangel Michael does not warn the unprepared. He warns the entrusted. You may not feel chosen. In fact, you may feel overlooked, delayed, or forgotten. But feelings are not indicators of truth in the spiritual realm. Often, those closest to breakthrough feel the furthest from it because pressure increases right before release. Resistance intensifies when something valuable is about to change hands. If nothing significant were coming, there would be no need for urgency, no need for warning, and no need for this message to interrupt your day. The very intensity you feel now confirms that something meaningful is approaching. Consider how many times you almost stopped believing. How many times you questioned whether it was worth holding on. And yet, something always pulled you back. Not loudly, not dramatically, but gently. That gentle pull is the same force that brought you here now. It is alignment. It is guidance. It is protection. Archangel Michael's presence around this message signals that what is ahead requires safeguarding, because not everything that comes from heaven arrives without opposition. Some miracles are contested before they are celebrated. You are not being asked to prove yourself. You are being asked to recognize yourself, to realize that your survival through the waiting was not accidental, to understand that your story did not stall. It was loading. And now, the final instructions begin to surface. This is why the tone shifts from patience to urgency. There is a difference between waiting seasons and response moments. Waiting seasons shape you. Response moments require action. Tonight is a response moment. This is also why this message carried responsibility. Being chosen does not mean being favored above others. It means being trusted with timing. It means heaven believes you are capable of responding correctly when it matters. And response is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet obedience. Sometimes it is attention. Sometimes it is simply taking seriously what others would ignore. The miracle you have been waiting for is connected to your willingness to honor divine timing when it interrupts your routine. And now listen carefully, because this is where agreement matters. When you hear a message like this and feel it resonate, it is important to acknowledge it, not for the platform, but for yourself. Agreement solidifies alignment. This is why I ask you, right now, to participate. If this message speaks to your spirit, if you sense that you were meant to hear this warning, then take a moment to like this video as a sign of alignment. Leave a comment, even if it is simple, declaring that you are ready to listen and respond. And if you have not yet subscribed, do so, not as a habit, but as a marker. These actions may seem small, but they are declarations. They say, I am present. I am listening. I am willing. In the spiritual realm, acknowledgement carries weight. This message is not meant to rush you into fear, but to awaken you from spiritual autopilot. Too many miss divine moments because they are spiritually asleep while physically awake. Archangel Michael's warning is a call to attention. It is heaven saying, look again. Listen again. This matters. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still leaning in, this tells us something important. You are closer than you think. Do not compare your journey to others. Comparison blinds discernment. What God is doing with you requires a specific sequence, and sequences cannot be rushed or copied. The miracle you have waited for is tailored, not generic. And what is tailored must be delivered precisely. This is why timing matters. This is why tonight matters. And this is why you matter in this message. As we move forward, understand this clearly. Nothing is being forced on you. Heaven honors choice. But choice creates consequence. Listening creates opportunity. Ignoring creates distance. Archangel Michael's presence here is not to frighten you, but to stand guard as you step closer to what has been prepared. You are not alone in this moment. You are guided. You are protected. And you are being invited, not randomly but intentionally, into the next phase. What comes next will reveal what must be understood before action is required. And once you see it, you will understand why this message came to you, and why it could not wait. When Archangel Michael says, open this, he is not speaking about something you can touch with your hands. He is speaking about something far more guarded, far more protected, and far more decisive, your inner gate. There are doors within you that only open through awareness and willingness. Doors of perception. Doors of trust. Doors of surrender. For a long time, you have kept one of these doors partially closed, not because you were rebellious, but because you were cautious. You learned caution through disappointment. You learned restraint through waiting. And while that protected you during the delay, it cannot protect you during the release. What once served you must now be open. To open this means to allow truth to enter where fear has been sitting quietly. It means allowing divine instruction to reach places where human logic has been in control. Many people pray for miracles but unknowingly keep the door locked through doubt, self-protection, with a need to fully understand before obeying. Heaven does not require blind faith, but it does require trust beyond explanation. Archangel Michael's urgency tonight exists because the miracle you've waited for cannot pass through a partially open door. It requires access. This door may be connected to forgiveness you postponed, obedience you delayed, or a step you felt unqualified to take. It may involve releasing control, letting go of old narratives, or accepting that God's way may not look like the way you imagined. Often, we think we are waiting on heaven, when heaven is waiting on our permission to work freely. Permission is not spoken with words alone. It is granted through openness. This is what must be open. Fear is the most common lock. Fear of disappointment. Fear of being wrong. Fear of hoping again. Over time, fear becomes quiet and reasonable. It disguises itself as wisdom. It tells you that staying guarded is safer than believing again. But miracles are not born in safety. They are born in surrender. Archangel Michael is not asking you to abandon wisdom. He is asking you to release fear disguised as protection. Another lock is delay. Delay often feels harmless. Not now feels safer than no. But in the spiritual realm, delay can cause doors to misalignment. Some things must be opened at the exact moment they are presented, not revisited later. This is why tonight carries urgency. There is a timing element attached to this opening. When heaven aligns circumstances, resistance weakens. But alignment does not wait indefinitely. It invites, and then it moves. To open it also means to open your attention. Distraction dulls discernment. When your focus is scattered, spiritual signals are easy to miss. Archangel Michael's insight requires presence, not multitasking, not half-listening. Presence signals respect, and respect invites clarity. This is why the instruction feels simple but heavy, because simplicity demands honesty. You cannot hide behind complexity when the instruction is clear. Understand this. Nothing is being taken from you. Something is being entrusted to you. Opening is not loss. It is access. When a door opens, light enters. When light enters, confusion loses its authority. The miracle you are waiting for is not fragile, but the path to it is precise. Precision requires obedience, not perfection. This is the moment where many feel resistance rise internally. That resistance is not failure, it is exposure. It reveals where control has been gripping tightly. Do not fight the resistance. Acknowledge it. Awareness is the first opening. Say yes internally before you see evidence externally. Heaven responds to internal alignment before external change. Right now, as you listen, something is already shifting. Not around you, within you. That subtle awareness, that quiet seriousness, that sense of weight mixed with peace, that is confirmation. You are not being manipulated. You are being activated. This message is not forcing a response. It is awakening readiness. And now, this moment must be sealed. Type "I am ready" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 613 is now activated. This is not a ritual for performance. It is a marker, a declaration, a line drawn between hesitation and obedience. Heaven responds to alignment expressed through action. And as you do this, understand that you are not alone. Many are being awakened quietly, simultaneously, across different places, responding to the same call in different ways. Unity does not require proximity, only agreement. Before we move forward, hold this in your heart. What comes next builds directly on what you have just opened. If you rush past this moment, you will miss the foundation for what follows. Take a breath. Let the awareness settle. You will be glad you stayed for what is about to be revealed. This moment you just stepped into is not only for you. It is meant to ripple outward, touching lives you may never meet. As you open your heart, God opens rivers, and those rivers are meant to flow. I hear the Lord saying, as you sow into this word, I will cause light to reach those still in darkness through you. This is my direct invitation to you, to become a carrier of this message beyond this screen. What you release now is not a donation, it is seed, and seed always speaks in heaven. If you feel the urgency of this word, act prophetically through super thanks, membership, or PayPal. The link is waiting in the description, and the PayPal QR code will appear before you. This is a holy response moment. I bless every giver now. May open heavens follow your obedience, and may what you release return multiplied, pressed down, and overflowing. Obey now. Let the harvest begin. What you have felt building beneath the surface of your life is not imagination, and it is not emotional fatigue alone. It is the echo of a silent war, a conflict you were never meant to fight consciously, yet one that has surrounded your miracle from the very beginning. Long before you saw delays, detours, or confusion in the natural realm, movement had already begun in the spiritual realm. Every genuine miracle is preceded by resistance, because nothing of value is released without opposition. The silence you experienced was not absence, it was containment. There are battles that announce themselves loudly, through chaos and disruption. And then there are battles fought quietly, through weariness, distraction, and subtle discouragement. Yours has been the second kind. The enemy did not try to destroy you openly, because destruction would have awakened urgency. Instead, the strategy was erosion, slowly dulling expectation, slowly normalizing delay, slowly convincing you that waiting was your permanent state. This is why the war felt invisible. But invisibility does not mean inactivity. Archangel Michael stands as a warrior precisely in moments like this. His role is not only to fight, but to reveal when a fight has been happening behind the scenes. You were not losing ground. You were being protected while something was being restrained. There were moments when things almost collapsed, when one more disappointment could have pushed you into giving up completely. But you were held. That holding was not accidental. It was defense. The reason this war intensified recently is simple: proximity. Resistance grows strongest when the outcome is near. Think of it this way: no one guards an empty room. Security increases around what is valuable. The increased pressure you felt, the strange exhaustion, the mental fog, the sudden resurfacing of old doubts, these were not signs of regression. They were indicators that the door was close. The war grew quieter but heavier because exposure would have alerted you too soon. One of the enemy's most effective tactics is to convince you that the struggle is internal, that it is your fault, your weakness, your inconsistency. This keeps you looking inward in condemnation instead of upward in awareness. But hear this clearly now. You did not imagine the resistance, and you did not create it. You were targeted because of what you carry and what is coming. And targeting is not a curse. It is confirmation of value. There were also moments when help seemed delayed, when answers came slowly, when clarity felt just out of reach. This was not neglect. It was strategy. Some truths arrive only when protection is in place to handle them. If you had known earlier how close you were, the pressure might have overwhelmed you. So heaven allowed you to walk without full awareness until you were strong enough to carry it. Protection often looks like delay until you understand it in hindsight. The silent war also explains why distractions multiplied. Opportunities that led nowhere. Conversations that drained you. Thoughts that loop endlessly without resolution. None of these were random. They were attempts to keep your focus fragmented so you would not notice alignment approaching. Focus is dangerous to resistance. Awareness weakens opposition. This is why this message arrives now, not earlier, not later. Timing exposes what silence concealed. Understand this. Your miracle was never unguarded. It was contested, yes, but also defended. Every attempt to block it was met with resistance from the other side. This is why Archangel Michael's presence matters. He does not arrive when things are comfortable. He arrives when outcomes are at stake. His involvement signals that what is coming requires divine enforcement. Some breakthroughs do not arrive gently. They arrive because heaven intervenes decisively. You may now begin to see your past differently. That season you thought was wasted was actually shielding. That closed door prevented premature exposure. That delay avoided a misalignment that could have cost you everything. When you reframe the struggle through this lens, shame dissolves. You were not weak, you were under pressure. And pressure reveals strength over time. The war is not over, but its outcome is no longer uncertain. There is a difference between ongoing resistance and imminent defeat. What you are experiencing now is the shifting of authority. Resistance senses laws of control. This is why urgency replaces patience. This is my warning to replace whisper. This is why Archangel Michael's tone is firm but protective. The war is reaching its final phase. Do not attempt to fight consciously what had been fought spiritually. Your role is not combat. It is cooperation. Stay aligned. Stay aware. Stay obedient. When you respond correctly, you weaken resistance without effort. Obedience closes legal ground the enemy once used. Awareness shuts doors distraction kept open. Alignment accelerates what delay once slowed. If you feel tired, that does not mean you are failing. It means you have been carrying weight longer than you realized. Rest is not retreat. It is reinforcement. Heaven does not ask exhausted people to fight. It asks them to trust. And trust is the highest form of spiritual authority. As we move forward, hold this truth steady. Nothing attacking you has permission to stop what is assigned to you. The silent war existed to delay, not deny. And delay has an expiration date. You are approaching it now. What remains is not to fear resistance, but to recognize that its presence signals the end of its influence. The next phase will show you how alignment dissolves opposition without confrontation. And when you see it, you will understand why the war had to remain silent. Until now. For a long time, the miracle you've been waiting for has felt undefined, almost like a shape behind fog. You knew it was coming, but you couldn't always name it clearly. At times, it felt like provision. At other times, restoration. Sometimes healing. Sometimes direction. sometimes peace. The reason it appeared to shift is because this miracle was never one-dimensional. It is layered. What is about to be released touches more than one area of your life, and that is why it required time, alignment, and protection before being revealed fully. The first layer of this miracle is restoration, not merely of circumstances, but of confidence, identity, and inner stability. There are parts of you that learned how to function without joy, how to survive without expectation, how to move forward while bracing for disappointment. Heaven has been watching this quietly. What is coming restores what you adapted away. It brings you back to yourself, not the version shaped by loss, but the version formed by promise. This restoration is subtle at first, but it changes how you respond to everything else that follows. For some, the miracle includes provision. Not sudden excess, but sustainable supply. Enough to breathe again. Enough to plan again. Enough to stop living in survival mode. The delay was never about scarcity. It was about structure. Provision without structure collapses. Timing without wisdom creates waste. What is coming aligns supply with stewardship, so what you receive remains. This is why it could not arrive earlier. You were still becoming someone who could hold it without fear. For others, the miracle involves healing, physical, emotional, or relational. Healing that does not simply remove pain, but restores trust in your own body, heart, or judgment. There were wounds that closed, but did not fully heal. You learned how to avoid pain rather than confront it. What is coming brings resolution, not avoidance. It addresses the root, not just the symptom. And that takes timing. Exposure before readiness re-traumatizes. Heaven waited until strength caught up with need. There is also a miracle of clarity embedded here. Direction replacing confusion. Certainty replacing hesitation. Many of your struggles were not because you lacked ability, but because you lacked clarity. When clarity arrives, effort becomes focused. Energy returns. Decision-making becomes lighter. This clarity is not loud. It is steady. It settles rather than excites. And once it arrives, you will wonder how you ever doubted what now feels obvious. Another layer of this miracle is reconciliation, not always with others, but with your own story. There are chapters you avoided revisiting because they carried regret or grief. What is coming reframes those chapters, not to glorify pain, but to redeem it. You will begin to see how nothing was wasted, even when it hurt. This reconciliation brings peace that does not depend on external apology or explanation. It allows you to move forward without dragging the past behind you. It is important to understand that this miracle does not arrive as a single dramatic event. It unfolds. It begins quietly, often internally, and then manifests externally through alignment rather than force. This is why some miss it. They expect spectacle instead of sequence. But sequence creates sustainability. Heaven is not interested in momentary excitement. He is interested in lasting transformation. You may have imagined this miracle differently. That does not mean you imagined wrong. It means you imagined partly. Expectation is shaped by limited perspective. What is coming may surprise you, not because it contradicts your hope, but because it exceeds it in wisdom. God often answers prayers in ways that solve more than what we asked for. You prayed for relief, heaven prepared renewal. You prayed for an answer, heaven arranged a shift. The waiting taught you discernment. You no longer chase everything that looks promising. You no longer open every door that appears. A discernment is about to be rewarded. The miracle aligns with who you are now, not who you were when you first asked. That is why it fits differently than you expected. Growth changes capacity. Do not fear that naming this miracle will make it disappear. Awareness does not cancel promise. It anchors it. What is being named now is not possibility, but proximity. The miracle is close enough to be recognized. That alone marks a transition. Many are still hoping blindly. You are being invited to see clearly. As this unfolds, resist the urge to rush. Speed can fracture alignment. Let the miracle reveal itself layer by layer. Each layer prepares you for the next. Trust the process because the process was designed specifically for you. Comparison will only distort what is meant to be personal. What you have been waiting for was never small. It was delayed because it was integrated, touching multiple areas, requiring precise timing. And now that it is being named, it is no longer distant. It is approaching in order, not chaos. Gently, intentionally, securely. The next part will show you why ignoring this moment would cost more than you realize. Not as punishment, but as misalignment. And when you understand that, urgency will no longer feel like pressure. It will feel like mercy. There are moments that pass quietly, leaving little trace behind them. And then there are moments that carry weight. Moments that, if ignored, do not announce their loss immediately, but reveal it slowly through absence. This is one of those moments. The cost of ignoring what is unfolding right now is not sudden punishment or dramatic collapse. It is something far more subtle and far more painful. Misalignment. When alignment is missed, life continues, but without the ease, clarity, and acceleration that were available. You move forward, but heavier. You try again, but slower. You pray, but without the same openness you once felt. This is what losing the miracle truly means. Many misunderstand this warning and imagine that ignoring it means God withdraws love or favor. That is not the case. Love remains constant, but opportunity does not linger forever. Divine timing is precise, and when it passes, it does not circle endlessly hoping to be noticed. It moves forward, unfolding elsewhere in different forms. What was meant to happen with alignment now must then happen through longer routes, greater resistance, or additional lessons. The destination may still exist, but the direct path closes. Scripture is filled with examples of this pattern. Doors opened, invitations extended, moments presented, and then missed. Not because people rejected God outright, but because they hesitated. They waited for more confirmation. They delayed obedience until conditions felt safer. And by the time they were ready, the moment had shifted. The loss was not dramatic. It was quiet, and it was permanent in that form. This is why the warning carries urgency. It is not meant to frighten you, but to awaken you before subtle loss takes root. Ignoring this moment does not mean everything falls apart tomorrow. It means the next season becomes heavier than it needed to be. It means lessons repeat instead of progress accelerating. It means you find yourself asking the same questions again later, wondering why clarity feels distant. The tragedy of missed alignment is not collapse. It is repetition. You relive patterns that were meant to end. You revisit delays that were meant to resolve. And often, you do not realize what was missed until much later, when hindsight brings understanding but not recovery of that exact window. Another cost of ignoring this moment is internal. When awareness arrives, it is dismissed. Something closes quietly inside. Sensitivity dulls. Discernment becomes less sharp. Not because God stops speaking, but because the heart learns to protect itself from urgency. Each ignored invitation makes the next one easier to dismiss. Over time, this creates spiritual numbness, not rebellion, but distance. And distance is far more dangerous than doubt, because doubt still seeks answers. Distance stops asking. There is also the cost of carrying unfinished weight. This miracle was designed to relieve pressure you have been carrying for too long. Ignoring this moment does not remove that weight, it extends it. You remain in endurance mode instead of transition mode. Endurance is noble, but it is not meant to be permanent. You were not created to survive indefinitely. You were created to move, build, and rest in cycles. When a cycle ends and the transition is ignored, exhaustion becomes chronic. Understand this clearly. The warning is not about fear of loss. It is about awareness of value. Heaven is revealing the cost because the opportunity is real. You are being treated as someone capable of choice, not someone to be coerced. Choice always carries consequence even when made passively. Choosing not to respond is still a choice. And choices shape timelines. The cost also includes missed clarity. What is opening now would bring understanding to confusion you have carried for years. Ignoring this moment prolongs uncertainty. You may still find answers later, but they will come through more complex paths. What could have been resolved through alignment may then require unraveling. Simplicity gives way to complication when timing is missed. This is why Archangel Michael's tone had been firm but protective. He is not threatening consequence. He is revealing reality. He stands at the intersection of justice and mercy, making the cost visible so you can choose wisely. The warning exists because heaven prefers prevention over repair. It is easier to step through an open door than to rebuild one after it closes. Do not interpret this as pressure to be perfect. Perfection is not required. Presence is. Attention is. Willingness is. The cost is not about failing to meet a standard. It is about missing alignment when it arrives gently but decisively. Alignment does not shout. It invites. And once the invitation is declined, alignment does not argue. If you feel seriousness rising in your spirit as you hear this, that is not condemnation. That is clarity. Clarity is a gift. It allows you to see what is at stake before it is gone. Very few are given this mercy. Many miss moments without ever knowing they existed. You are being shown the edge of the window while it is still open. The purpose of this part is not to weigh you down, but to sharpen your awareness. This is not about fear of loss. It is about respect for timing. When heaven marks a moment, it does so because preparation is complete. What remains is response. And response determines whether opportunity becomes experience. What comes next will show you exactly what must be done and when, not in confusion, but in simplicity. And when you hear it, you will understand why this warning came before instruction. Because now, you are awake enough to respond. What is about to be shared now is not symbolic, and it is not complicated. It is precise. Archangel Michael's instruction for 11 p.m. tonight is simple in form but profound in consequence, because simplicity is how heaven tests obedience. Complicated instructions invite debate. Simple instructions invite response. This is not about ritual or performance. It is about posture, internal and external, at a specific moment in time when the spiritual atmosphere is open and responsive. At 11 p.m., you are instructed to pause whatever you are doing, if possible, and enter stillness. Not sleep. Stillness. There is a difference. Sleep disengages the mind. Stillness engages awareness. This moment requires consciousness, not unconsciousness. You are being asked to mark the hour deliberately. Timing matters here because alignment is time-sensitive. When heaven assigns an hour, it does so because resistance is thinnest and clarity is highest at that point. The first instruction is silence, not the absence of sound alone, but the quieting of internal noise. No rehearsing arguments, no replaying worries, no anticipating outcomes. Silence is not emptiness, it is availability. Silence signals to heaven that you are not trying to control the moment. Many struggle here because silence feels unproductive. But in the spiritual realm, silence is an act of trust. It says, I am not filling this space with my own solutions. The second instruction is attention. This does not mean expecting visions or dramatic experiences. It means being fully present. Attention is different from expectation. Expectation pressures the moment to perform. Attention allows the moment to speak. At 11 p.m., simply become aware that you are present and willing. That awareness alone creates alignment. Heaven does not need long speeches. It responds to readiness. The third instruction is openness. This is where openness becomes active rather than conceptual. Openness means releasing internal resistance even if you do not fully understand what comes next. It means saying internally, without drama, I am willing. Willingness is the key that unlocks instruction. Without willingness, guidance remains theoretical. With willingness, even small insights carry power. You are not required to ask for anything specific at this hour. This is important. Asking often pulls the moment back into human desire and urgency. This hour is about receiving direction, not requesting outcome. Direction precedes delivery. Many want the miracle before the instruction. Heaven reverses that order. Instruction protects the miracle once it arrives. If emotions surface during this time, do not suppress them and do not amplify them. Let them pass without analysis. Emotional processing is not the goal of this moment. Alignment is. Think of it as standing at a doorway. You do not rearrange your house while standing at the door. You simply open it and step through when invited. There may be a thought, a word, a memory, or a gentle clarity that comes during or shortly after this moment. Do not dismiss it because it feels ordinary. Heaven often speaks in ways that blend seamlessly with thought so that guidance feels natural rather than imposed. The power is not in how dramatic the message feels, but in how steady it remains afterward. You may also experience nothing noticeable at the time. This does not mean nothing happened. Some instructions are planted rather than announced. Seeds do not make noise when placed in soil, but they begin working immediately. Trust that responsiveness matters more than sensation. Obedience is not measured by experience, but by alignment. Another key instruction is restraint. Do not rush to explain this moment to others immediately. Some things must be held quietly until they mature. Premature sharing can dilute clarity. There will be time later to speak. This moment is for receiving, not broadcasting. Finally, after 11 p.m. passes, do not revert back to distraction immediately. Carry the stillness forward. Let the alignment settle. This is how you honor the moment. Honor extends the effect. Disregard shortens it. Heaven watches not only how you enter moments, but how you exit them. Understand that Archangel Michael's role here is protective. These instructions are not arbitrary. They are designed to shield what is being released from interference. Simplicity minimizes resistance. Stillness blocks distraction. Willingness closes legal ground for delay. Every element is intentional. You may feel a sense of seriousness as this hour approaches. That seriousness is not heaviness. It is weight, the weight of importance. Important moments feel different because they require presence. Do not fear the weight. It does not crush. It anchors. Tonight at 11 p.m. is not about striving. It is about positioning. You are not being asked to force anything into existence. You are being asked to stand where heaven can reach you without obstruction. That is all. What follows this instruction is not chaos, but order. Not confusion, but clarity. Not loss, but movement. The next part will reveal what begins to shift after you obey, and why the effects may be subtle at first, yet undeniable over time. After obedience, the first thing that changes is not your circumstances, it is your internal atmosphere. This is where many become confused. They expect immediate external proof, but heaven often begins with internal alignment. When you obey at 11 p.m., something settles inside you. A quiet steadiness replaces the tension you have been carrying. The mind slows, the heart softens, and without explanation, you feel less scattered. This is not imagination. This is order being restored. Alignment always produces peace before it produces proof. The second shift is clarity. Not necessarily full answers, but a narrowing of focus. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel sortable. Decisions that felt heavy lose emotional charge. You may not know every step yet, but you suddenly know what does not belong anymore. Discernment sharpens. Confusion fades not by force, but by relevance. Certain worries simply lose importance. This is a sign that authority is shifting internally. When alignment occurs, lesser voices fall silent. Another shift is sensitivity. You become more aware of subtle confirmations. A phrase you hear, a conversation that answers a question you did not speak aloud, a moment of insight that arrives without effort. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Heaven rarely announces progress loudly. It confirms it gently, repeatedly, until certainty replaces doubt. Those who are attentive recognize these signs quickly. Those who rush past them often miss reassurance that was meant to strengthen faith. You may also notice resistance decrease in strange ways. Not all obstacles disappear immediately, but their grip weakens. What once triggered anxiety no longer controls your response. Emotional reaction. Recovery becomes quicker. This is internal authority returning. When authority shifts, opposition loses leverage even if it still exists. You stop reacting and start responding. That alone changes outcomes over time. Peace is another indicator. Not excitement, not adrenaline. Peace. Peace that does not depend on explanation. This peace is not passive, it is stabilizing. It allows you to move forward without panic. It anchors you during transition. Many mistake peace for stagnation, but peace is actually momentum without noise. It means you are moving in the right direction without resistance from within. Do not mistake subtlety for insignificance. Some of the most powerful shifts are quiet because they restructure foundations rather than decorate surfaces. Heaven rebuilds from the inside out. This prevents collapse later. What begins now prepares you for what is coming so that when external changes arrive, you are not overwhelmed by them. At this stage, patience becomes important again, but it is a different kind of patience. Not the waiting you endured before, but expectant patience. The kind that knows movement has started even if results are still forming. This patience is calm, not strained. It trusts sequence. It understands that growth follows alignment naturally. Now, there is also a warning here. After obedience, distractions may attempt to return. Old habits, old doubts, old narratives. This does not mean alignment failed. It means resistance is attempting to reclaim ground. Do not engage these distractions emotionally. Recognition is enough. Awareness dissolves their power. You do not need to fight what no longer has authority. This is also when gratitude matters. Gratitude seals shifts. Not performative gratitude, but quiet acknowledgement. A simple internal thank you reinforces alignment. Gratitude tells heaven that you recognize movement even before outcome. Recognition accelerates completion. And now, this moment must be marked. Type "I receive alignment" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 842 is now activated. This declaration is not for visibility, it is for agreement. Agreement anchors change. What you align with internally, you reinforce externally. Heaven honors alignment expressed through action. As this shift unfolds, remember this: do not rush to interpret everything. Let clarity mature. Some insights arrive in layers. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust what has begun. You will notice that things start arranging themselves without force. Conversations align. Opportunities emerge naturally. Decisions feel lighter. This is alignment at work. And now, listen closely. What comes next will reveal why staying attentive after obedience matters just as much as the obedience itself. Hold on. What comes next changes everything. What you just stepped into is not only changing your life, it is meant to carry light far beyond you. As alignment begins to move, God is saying, what you release now, I will turn into oil for many lamps. This is my direct invitation to you to act prophetically in this moment. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not funding content. You are sowing into souls that are still waiting for this very word. This is urgent obedience, not generosity. The PayPal link is in the description, and the PayPal QR code will appear on screen. I speak blessing over every giver now. May what you release return with acceleration, open doors, and multiplied favor. Act now. Let heaven respond. What begins in obedience must be sealed in agreement. Alignment opens the door, but agreement keeps it open. Many receive divine instruction, respond correctly in private, and then unknowingly weaken the outcome by treating the next phase casually. This part is not about effort. It is about reinforcement. Agreement is how spiritual movement becomes sustained reality. Without agreement, alignment remains fragile. With agreement, it becomes established. Agreement starts with recognition. You must acknowledge that something has shifted, even if you cannot yet measure it. The spiritual realm responds to recognition because recognition is awareness, and awareness is authority. When you recognize movement, you position yourself as a participant rather than a bystander. This is why silence after obedience is not enough. Stillness must now be paired with intention. Not striving, intention. One of the most powerful ways agreement operates is through words. Not emotional words, not dramatic words, but aligned words. When you speak in agreement with what has begun, you give it legal ground to continue. Silence can protect a seed, but agreement allows it to grow. This is why Scripture places so much emphasis on confession, not as performance but as alignment between belief and declaration. You are not being asked to announce the miracle before it arrives. You are being asked to agree with the process now in motion. Agreement sounds like this internally. I accept this direction. I trust what has begun. I will not sabotage this with doubt. These statements may seem small, but in the spiritual realm, they carry authority. They close doors that resistance once used to delay progress. Community agreement multiplies this effect. This is not about validation from others. It is about shared alignment. When multiple people agree with truth, momentum increases. This is why isolated obedience often stalls, while supported obedience accelerates. Agreement creates reinforcement. Reinforcement creates stability. Stability creates manifestation over time. This is where your participation matters beyond passive listening. If this message resonates with you, it is important to respond outwardly, not for visibility, but for agreement. Take a moment now to comment something that declares alignment. Simple, honest, and personal. It could be I agree, I receive this, or I am aligned. These words are not for me. They are for you. They mark your position. They signal to heaven that you are not only listening, but participating. I also ask you to share this message with someone who may be in a similar waiting season. Not to convince them, but to offer alignment. Shared awareness strengthens discernment. And when you share, you are not spreading content, you are extending an invitation. What helped awaken you may help stabilize someone else. And if you have not yet subscribed, do so now, not out of habit, but as a marker of commitment to staying attentive. Subscription here is not about numbers. It is about continuity. It signals that you intend to remain present for what unfolds next. Continuity matters because alignment is not a single moment. It is a sequence. And I'll listen carefully because this next truth is essential. Agreement is not excitement. Excitement fades quickly. Agreement remains steady. You may not feel emotionally charged every day after this. That does not mean alignment has faded. It means alignment is settling into structure. Structure lasts longer than emotion. Do not chase feelings. Honor direction. There will be moments after this when old doubts attempt to resurface. This is normal. Agreement does not prevent thoughts from appearing. It prevents them from taking control. When doubt arises, do not argue with it. Simply return to agreement. Reaffirm what you accepted. Revisit your alignment internally. This keeps momentum intact without struggle. Also understand this. Agreement does not force timing. It protects timing. What is unfolding still follows divine order. Agreement ensures you do not interfere with impatience or fear. It keeps you aligned during the in-between. Many lose miracles not because they disobeyed once, but because they lost agreement during waiting. Do not make that mistake. Consistency matters more than intensity. As you move forward, you may notice that certain relationships, habits, or thought patterns no longer fit. This is not loss. It is refinement. Agreement often reveals what cannot come with you into the next phase. Letting go is not rejection. It is alignment. Release without resentment. Trust that what leaves is making room for what arrives. And now, hold this moment gently. Do not rush ahead mentally. Stay present. Something important is about to be revealed next. Something that will help you recognize the signs that your miracle is already activating, even before it becomes visible. You will want to hear this, because many miss confirmation simply because they do not know what to look for. Stay with me. What comes next will bring clarity you didn't know you needed. When a miracle begins to activate, it rarely announces itself with sudden spectacle. Instead, it reveals itself through patterns, quiet, consistent, and unmistakable to those who are paying attention. Many miss these signs because they expect disruption rather than alignment. But heaven often confirms movement through subtle order before visible change. What you are about to hear will help you recognize what is already happening, so you do not misinterpret progress as delay. One of the first signs is a shift in your inner dialogue. Thoughts that once spiraled into fear now resolve more quickly. You still notice challenges, but they no longer dominate your emotional space. This does not mean everything feels easy, it means everything feels manageable. When a miracle activates, emotional reactions shorten. Recovery becomes faster. You regain your ability to reset. This is not emotional numbness. It is emotional authority returning. Another sign is unexpected clarity around decisions you have been avoiding. Choices that felt overwhelming begin to sort themselves. You may not receive a dramatic answer, but you suddenly know what not to do. Indecision fades, not because every option is clear, but because confusion loses its grip. Clarity often begins with elimination. When the wrong paths lose appeal, the right one becomes obvious without effort. You may also notice changes in timing. Delays that once frustrated you now feel protective rather than obstructive. You begin to sense when to wait and when to move. This discernment is a strong indicator that alignment is active. When timing awareness sharpens, it means internal synchronization has begun. You are no longer pushing against the current. You are learning its rhythm. Another confirmation appears through conversations. Someone may say something that answers a question you have not spoken aloud, or a repeated theme begins to surface through different people, unrelated sources, or moments. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Heaven often repeats truth gently until confidence replaces uncertainty. Pay attention to repetition. What repeats is being emphasized. Dreams may also shift, not necessarily becoming vivid or symbolic, but becoming calmer. Restlessness decreases. Sleep becomes deeper or more restorative. This indicates that internal resistance is easing. When alignment occurs, the nervous system responds. Peace is not only spiritual, it is physiological. Your body recognizes safety when direction is clear. You may also notice a decrease in urgency. This does not mean loss of motivation. It means desperation is dissolving. When desperation fades, trust takes its place. You no longer feel the need to force outcomes or rush decisions. This is one of the clearest signs that a miracle is forming correctly. What is forced rarely lasts. What unfolds endures. Another sign is a subtle but persistent pull towards certain actions or thoughts. Not pressure, invitation. You may feel drawn to organize something, to reach out to someone, or to prepare in small ways. These nudges are not random. They are preparatory. Miracles often require readiness before arrival. Preparation is not effort, it is cooperation. Pay attention also to what loses power over you. Old triggers may still appear, but they no longer control your reactions. Certain fears lose intensity. Certain temptations lose appeal. This is internal realignment. When alignment activates, lesser influences weaken naturally. You are not fighting them. They are simply becoming irrelevant. It is also common to experience brief moments of doubt during this phase. This does not mean activation failed. Doubt often surfaces when certainty is near because the old system resists replacement. The key is not to analyze doubt, but to observe it without engagement. Doubt loses power when it is not fed attention. One important instruction during this phase is restraint. Do not announce the miracle prematurely. Speaking too soon can dilute focus. Some things grow best in quiet. This is not secrecy. It is wisdom. Allow confirmation to accumulate before interpretation. Trust develops through consistency, not excitement. Another instruction is gratitude without performance. Quiet gratitude reinforces alignment. You do not need to feel overwhelmed with thankfulness. A simple acknowledgement is enough. Gratitude keeps your attention on movement rather than absence. Also, resist comparison. Others may seem to move faster or slower. That has nothing to do with your process. Comparison introduces distortion. Your timeline is calibrated to your capacity, not someone else's outcome. Stay attentive to your own signals. As these signs continue, you may feel anticipation rising, not anxious anticipation, but steady expectancy. This is healthy. It indicates readiness without pressure. Let expectancy remain calm. Calm expectancy keeps you aligned during unfolding. Finally, understand this. Activation does not mean completion. It means initiation. What has begun will continue to unfold in sequence. Do not rush the sequence. Honor it. Each step prepares you for the next. The next part will bring a final warning, not to alarm you, but to protect what has begun. Timing still matters. Awareness still matters. And what you do in the coming moments will determine how smoothly this activation becomes manifestation. Stay present. You are closer than you realize. What you are hearing now is not meant to create fear, but it must create seriousness. There is a difference. Fear paralyzes. Curiousness sharpened. This is a final warning, not because danger is approaching, but because opportunity has reached its narrowest point. Windows of alignment do not slam shut loudly. They close quietly, often while life continues looking normal on the surface. This is why awareness matters now more than ever. The most common mistake at this stage is relaxation without vigilance. After obedience, after alignment, after initial confirmation, many assume the work is done. They drift back into autopilot, believing momentum will carry everything forward automatically. But alignment must be maintained, not assumed. What has begun is real, but it is also delicate. Not fragile, delicate. There is a difference. Fragile breaks easily. Delicate requires care. This warning exists because distractions return strongest when progress has already started. Resistance knows it has lost authority, but it still seeks access. It looks for small openings, complacency, impatience, overconfidence, or emotional exhaustion. These do not appear dangerous. They feel reasonable. That is why they are effective. The danger now is not obvious disobedience. It is subtle disengagement. One of the clearest signs that the window is closing is a sense of urgency fading into indifference. Not peace, indifference. Peace feels grounded. Indifference feels numb. If you notice yourself minimizing what once felt important, that is a signal to recenter. Do not ignore it. Indifference dulls discernment faster than doubt. Doubt still wrestles. Indifference stops caring. Another risk is rushing ahead. When activation begins, impatience can masquerade as faith. You may feel tempted to force outcomes, accelerate timelines, or make decisions prematurely. This does not come from confidence. It comes from anxiety disguised as readiness. Forcing now would undo what alignment protected. Timing still matters. Sequence still matters. What arrives out of order creates unnecessary complications. There is also the temptation to seek validation, wanting others to confirm what you sense internally. While counsel can be wise, seeking constant reassurance can weaken inner clarity. The alignment you received was personal. It was given to you, not to a committee. Trust does not mean isolation, but it does mean not outsourcing discernment. The more you look outward for certainty, the quieter your inner guidance becomes. This warning also applies to speech. Words carry weight during transition. Casual negativity, self-doubt spoken aloud, or joking dismissal of what matters can weaken agreement. You do not need to speak fearfully to undo progress. Carelessness is enough. Choose words that reinforce alignment, even in private. Speak with intention. Silence is better than contradiction. Another subtle danger is nostalgia. Looking back at the waiting season with familiarity. Long delays create strange comfort zones. You learned how to live there. Moving forward means leaving what is known, even if it was uncomfortable. The temptation to romanticize endurance can pull you backward emotionally. Do not confuse familiarity with safety. The future may feel unfamiliar, but it is prepared. This is also a moment where fatigue may surface, not physical tiredness alone, but decision fatigue. You may feel weary of being attentive. This is natural. Awareness requires energy. But this phase does not last long. Do not disengage now. Rest without disconnecting. Renewal without withdrawal. You are close enough that disengagement would be costly. The warning is firm because the stakes are high, not because you are failing. In fact, the warning itself is proof of care. Many never receive warnings. They drift unknowingly. You are being reminded because what you carry matters. What is unfolding matters. And heaven prefers correction over consequence. If you feel pressure reading this, pause and breathe. Pressure is not the goal. Precision is. Precision means staying attentive to small things. Small nudges. Small confirmations. Small checks in your spirit. These guide you through the narrowing window without strain. Do not interpret this warning as a threat of loss, but as an invitation to stay present. Presence keeps the window open. Presence keeps alignment active. Presence keeps you responsive rather than reactive. Very soon, this phase will complete. The window will not remain narrow forever. It will open into movement. But how smoothly that transition occurs depends on how you handle this final stretch. Finish well. Finish attentively. Finish grounded. What comes next will bring closure, reassurance, and upliftment. It will remind you that you are not alone in this process and that what has begun will be completed. Stay with me. The final words are not heavy. They are anchoring. And they will carry you forward with peace. You have reached the end of this message, but not the end of the movement it began. What has unfolded through these words was not meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to steady you. From the urgency of the warning to the clarity of instruction, from the quiet shifts within you to the signs already activating around you, everything has been leading to this truth. You are not late. You are not forgotten. And you are not standing alone at the edge of change. You are exactly where you need to be. Let this settle deeply now. The miracle you have waited for so long was never lost in the delay. It was preserved, guarded, prepared in ways you could not see at the time. Every season of waiting shaped you for reception. Every unanswered question refined discernment. Every moment of endurance strengthened capacity. Nothing was wasted. Not the tears. Not the confusion. Not the long nights where faith felt quiet. Heaven accounted for all of it. What matters now is assurance. Not emotional reassurance, but grounded assurance. Assurance that obedience was seen. Assurance that alignment was established. Assurance that movement has begun, even if it is not yet loud in the natural realm. Heaven does not start with it, but not intend to finish. What hath been activated will unfold to completion in proper order. You are not responsible for forcing it. You are responsible for staying aligned with it. There will be days ahead that feel ordinary. Do not let ordinariness deceive you into thinking nothing is happening. Growth often looks quiet while it is strengthening roots. Remain attentive, but do not strain. Remain hopeful, but do not rush. Peace is your confirmation now. Steadiness is your signal. If peace remains, alignment remains. You may still encounter moments of uncertainty. That does not invalidate what has begun. Uncertainty does not cancel faith. It invites trust. When questions arise, return to stillness. Return to agreement. Return to what you know was established. You do not need new confirmation every day. Consistency will speak louder than repetition. Let go of the fear of doing it wrong. That fear belongs to an old season. The season is guided. Correction will come gently if needed. Direction will come clearly when required. You are not navigating blindly. You are being led in measured steps. Trust the pace. Trust the process. Trust the one who initiated it. Now receive this final sealing. Type IT is sealed in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 931 is now activated. This is not a symbolic phrase. It is a declaration of completion for this phase. What needed to be opened has been opened. What needed to be aligned has been aligned. What needed to be worn has been worn. From here, movement replaces preparation. And now, lift your heart for a moment. Release the weight you have been carrying. You do not need to brace anymore. You do not need to stay on guard constantly. Awareness does not mean anxiety. Awareness means trust paired with attention. Let peace take its place where tension once lived. I speak assurance over you now. May clarity increase without pressure. May patience deepen without fatigue. May confirmation meet you gently in ways you recognize. May distractions lose their grip. May fear remain quiet. May your steps feel lighter, even before circumstances change. You are covered. You are guided. You are protected. What is unfolding is not fragile. It is established. And what is established will endure. What has just been sealed in you is meant to overflow beyond you. I hear the Lord saying, "What I finish in you, I want to begin in many through you." This is my direct call to you now. Act as a vessel in this final moment. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are releasing seed that becomes light for souls who are still waiting for hope. This is not support. It is obedience. The PayPal donation link is in the description, and the PayPal QR code will appear on screen. I bless every giver now. May your obedience unlock doors, accelerate favor, and return to you pressed down and overflowing. Do it now. Let the harvest move forward.